Wenn Admi wenn Admi die Urne um 1 Uhr gestohlen hat, kann er ja nicht am Tatort des Mordes gewesen sein. Aber andererseits bin ich mir ziemlich sicher, dass wahrscheinlich Admi den Kane Bullard umgebracht hat. Nur wenn das der Fall ist, wer hat dann bitte schön die Urne gestohlen um 1 Uhr? Admi kann ja nicht an 2 Orten gleichzeitig gewesen sein. Tja, fangen wir mal an mit dem Trial. 20 vor 10. Defendant Lobby Number 4. Hey Nick. What is it this time? You won't believe how many people are here for the trial. Well, it is a murder case. What are you talking about? They're here for the trial next door. Next door? What? Why don't you know this, Nick? They're having Detective Admi's trial today. Detective Admi? They say they're going to try him as Mas de Masque. Already? That was fast. Boy, I'd love to see Mas de Masque's trial. I know. By the way, where's Pearls? Oh, she went back home. She said she can't neglect her training anymore. I know you don't like me. Wer sagt das denn jetzt? Ist es vielleicht Gumshoe? Pearls has really gotten into her training lately, huh? Yeah, ever since that incident last year. Yes, please don't ignore me. Oh, Mr. Delight, good morning. No one likes me. No one would notice me, even if I killed someone. Come on, don't be silly. Wait a sec. You don't mean you're the murderer? No, I'm just a poor thief. No, wait, that's not right. A thief can't really be poor. Now let's see, according to Mr. Delight, from his second crime on, he was following a bunch of set plans. Plans that someone had been sending to him to help him commit the heists. Ist ja krass, dann hat er das ja doch alles gemacht. Das habe ich... Okay. Do you really think there's a connection between the thief and the murder, Nick? It's possible, but today's trial is a race against the clock. How come? Let's just take our time like always. I'm afraid that's not an option. Huh? Okay, 10 Uhr. Los geht's.
Court is now in session for the trial of Mr. Ron Delight.
The defense is ready, Your Honor. You're ready. Preparation is the last refuge of the weak.
Okay, settle down, everyone. Let's begin with your opening statement, Mr. Godot.
He's got the judge in the palm of his hand, yet again. Ron Delight is simply too young to be sent to war. That's all.
I'm afraid I have no idea what that means, Mr. Godot.
Neither do I. Then you need to get out more, Your Honor. Life is war, but that is exactly why you must be more precise in your wording. That's all my statement means. You understand now, right?
Yes, well then, let me briefly summarize the details of this case.
Well, the judge is taking charge like he knows what's going on for a change.
The victim is Kane Bullard, CEO of KB Security. His body was found in a safe at approximately 9 a.m. on the morning of the 13th. However, the time of death was estimated as 1 a.m. of the previous day.
And that's when our little lost kitten dropped the ball. That little lost kitten is, of course, the defendant.
Very well then, Mr. Godot, please call your first witness.
I don't call any witnesses. I never drink more than 17 cups of coffee during any driven trial. Das ist schon ein bisschen ungesund. But the first one is always the best.
Mr. Godot, your witness, please.
Okay then, let's hear what the defendant, Mr. Ron Delight, has to say for himself.
The defendant? Well, Mr. Wright, does the defense have any objections? Maybe a bit of a disadvantage having the defendant testify, but...
I remember when Mia was defending me. She allowed me to testify so she could do the cross-examination. She put a lot of trust in me back then. We have no objections, Your Honor. The defense will allow Mr. Delight to testify. You've got guts, try it.
Alright then, Mr. Rondelite, please take the stand.
You did it, didn't you? Yes, but... What? Ich wollte gerade schon sagen, ich habe gerade... Ihr habt ja jetzt keine Webcam hier, aber ich habe gerade genau so geguckt wie Phoenix Wright ungefähr. Yes, what? No, that's not true.
For a moment there, I thought we'd set the record for the shortest trial ever.
Well, Mr. Delight already looks plenty guilty with that face he's making. And once he opens his big mouth, he'll probably put the last nail in his own coffin. Oh, very well. Now then, can you tell me something? If you didn't kill Bullard, why did you go to KB Security? Well, that's kind of hard to say. Boy, I wish I could go home.
Now then, let's hear some testimony about what happened.
My visit to KB Security. That evening around 1 a.m., I went to see Mr. Bullard in his office at KB Security. The blackmail letter I got. It ordered me to go there. I had been working for KB Security until a year ago, so I knew where his office was.
Das war jetzt nicht viel. 1 a.m., the exact time the murder took place.
The weak get washed away by the tides of fate. The strong drink it up. It's bitter today, too. Just like my destiny. You'd never know that from the way he's chugging it down.
Mr. Wright, since the prosecution is busy spouting weird nonsense, I think it's time for your cross-examination, if you please.
Frage ich mich auch. Vielleicht ist er aber auch einfach, hat er so viel Kaffee getrunken, dass er in der Lage ist, mit seiner Gedankenkraft den Kaffee zu sich fliegen zu lassen. Oder er bewegt ihn selber, aber er ist dabei so schnell, dass es aussieht, als würde der Kaffee in seine Hand fliegen. Der Gerichtssaal muss gut riechen, ja. Allerdings auch nur, wenn man Kaffee mag. Ich war mal für 1 oder 2 Wochen war ich mit 2 Freunden in Katalonien. In so einer ganz kleinen Stadt in Katalonien. Und da war so eine Kaffeerösterei irgendwie. So eine riesengroße Kaffeerösterei irgendwo an so einem... Was war das? Irgend so ein Teil, der lag, glaube ich, weiter oben. Und jeden Morgen ist von da der Geruch von Kaffee durch die gesamte Stadt gezogen. Und die Freundin, die wir da besucht haben, hat Kaffee gehasst. Und hat uns deswegen auch erzählt, wie unglaublich furchtbar sie es findet, jeden Morgen draußen zu sein. Also, ihr könnt euch vorstellen, dass mein Gedankengang eher das Gegenteil davon war, aber ja. Musste ich jetzt nur gerade dran denken, wo du meintest, der Gerichtssaal muss gut riechen. Musste ich dran denken, dass es natürlich für Leute, die den Geruch von Kaffee nicht mögen, dann eher nicht so gut ist. Auch wenn mir das unverständlich ist, wie man den Geruch von Kaffee nicht mögen kann. Ich meine, selbst wenn man Kaffee nicht mag, der riecht doch einfach super. Egal. Weiter. That evening around 1 a.m. Bei dir roch es früher immer nach Fischmehl. Also ich glaube, da wäre vielen Leuten ein Kaffee aber bestimmt lieber. 1 a.m. I went to see Mr. Bullard in his office at KB Security. 1 a.m., huh? You're absolutely sure about that? Yes, that's what my watch said when I was entering the CEO's office. No. Actually, I'm not really sure. My watch was slow and my internal clock was also a bit...
1 a.m., that's the exact time the victim, Mr. Bullard, was murdered, correct?
It's too late for a coffee date, that's for sure. The blackmail letter I got, it ordered me to go there. It ordered you there? It was the first time I'd gotten a blackmail letter that ordered me to go somewhere.
Does that mean you've gotten other blackmail letters then?
Oh, of course. They'd say... why don't you save those for later, Mr. Delight? Please don't say any more. Now, what should I do? Also, ein Du zu viel. What should I do? Ich weiß nicht. Ich mach erstmal leave it. Can't press run too hard. It could ruin the case. I'll just take this one slowly. Wow, Nick, you kind of look like a politician planning out your next move. Was haben wir denn hier noch? I'd been working for KB Security until a year ago, so I knew where his office was. You used to be a security chief for KB Security, right? Yes, that's right.
A security chief? You?
And yet, a year ago, you were fired without notice. Revenge for an old grudge. A perfect motive for murder, wouldn't you say? Ich hab's gewusst, dass damit anfängt. This isn't good. Maybe I should change the subject. Wie wär's denn mit warum? Vielleicht hat's dann ja gar nichts mit Kane Bullard zu tun. Mr. Delight, please tell us why you were fired from your job. Well, the world is filled with those who have said, I wish I had never asked that. Oh, scheiße. Toll, wenn er das jetzt so sagt, fühle ich mich gar nicht gut, dass ich diese Frage gerade gestellt habe. Okay, then I take it back.
Defendant, please answer the question.
Kann ich das bitte zurücknehmen? I needed money.
You needed money?
Well, you see, Desi loves to spend it. It's kind of her hobby.
Not exactly the best hobby in the world, huh, Nick?
My salary wasn't nearly enough, so I stole data from the
I stole data from the company. Come again?
KB Security has a lot of security info on all sorts of companies. And since I was a security team chief...
You stole some data and sold it.
Mr. Bullard found out and I was fired immediately.
Wow, I wish I had never asked that. Ja, wie Godot gesagt hat.
I was somehow able to keep it secret and made it seem like I had quit on my own.
What is it, Nick? You don't look so good. Someone who brings harm to their company is fired as punishment. You'd do well to remember that. He sure told you.
So you admit that you stole data from your company, is that correct?
Yes, I'm sorry.
This is a very important fact. Please add it to your testimony.
Oh man, this whole thing just took a big turn for the worse. Crashed and blew up. It's gonna take the jaws of life to rip this case from the clutches of disaster.
He fired me for selling company secrets, but Desi doesn't know about that.
Why would you do something like that?
Well, for Desi's hobby. What else?
Wasting money, huh?
It's not a waste. So Miss Delight doesn't know that her husband was fired, does she?
So it would seem.
I'm not sure what to think about couples who keep secrets like that from each other.
I can't believe it. This case has gotten even Maya to think seriously about couples.
Please try to stay focused, Mr. Wright.
There wasn't much to his testimony, was there?
Sounds like he's avoiding something, at least that's what it sounds like to me.
I've got a bad feeling about this. We'd better be careful.
But if we don't find a way to make him spill the beans, we'll never get closer to the truth.
Yeah.
Ich meine, wir haben jetzt was Neues hinzugefügt bekommen, aber ich wüsste nicht, was ich hier groß präsentieren soll. Aber ich hatte hier vorhin ja noch die Option, dass ich da Press Harder wählen konnte. Oder? Press Harder. So what did the blackmail letter in question say?
It said to bring $50,000.
Money, a perfect motive for committing murder.
Oh, but wait. I never intended to pay that money anyway.
Oh, is that right?
After all, he had nothing to hold over my head. I had nothing to be afraid of.
An important point indeed. Witness, let's have that added to your testimony.
Yes, sir.
Huh. A muddy mudskipper in outer space has a better chance of surviving than I do. The blackmail threat didn't scare me. It wasn't going to cause me trouble or anything. If you don't want you to... If you don't, I'll take that red diamond you received the other day instead. Just what were you being blackmailed about anyway?
The blackmail letter said, if you don't want your identity revealed, correct?
I'm sure it was referring to the whole Master Moskva thing.
I'm afraid that reason isn't going to hold up anymore. What do you mean? The victim had no proof the defendant was Master Moskwa, but you were the one who stole company secrets only 1 year earlier.
Well, it was all over with once I was fired. But it is true that the fact I stole secrets was kept under wraps.
Stimmt, so gesehen hatte der CEO natürlich schon noch was, womit ihn erpressen könnte.
Even so, there was no reason for me to pay up now, a whole year later.
Is that really true?
What is it, Nick?
The fact that Ron was stealing company data. I wonder if he would have had a problem if that ever became public knowledge. Yes, he would, weil Desi doch criminals, hasst. Mr. Delight, I believe you would have been in considerable trouble if your identity as a company data thief was made public.
Mr. Wright, what are you trying to do by bullying your own client?
Men are like colonies of bacteria. The more heat you apply, the faster they grow.
That's exactly right.
Well then, feel free to keep up the heat, my little lawyer amigo. Little lawyer amigo? Yes, now come on, provide some evidence to back up your assertion. Why would Mr. Delight want to keep his data stealing secret from going public? Ich würde mal sagen, Desi. Mr. Delight, what you said just now doesn't match what you told me yesterday.
Huh? What doesn't?
I think you must have been scared, very scared, of having a certain person find out your secret.
A certain person?
Yes. Mrs. Desiree Delight, the defendant's wife.
But I listen to me, my Desi, she's...
Looks like if I just sit back and relax, the fun will end before it truly begins.
Godot.
Yes, we know. It was all your wife's fault.
What do you mean?
Mr. Delight stole company data to pay for his wife's spending habit for which he was fired. Unable to face his own wife, someone used his dirty little secret to blackmail him. And that is how this murder came about.
Oh,
Now everything is falling neatly into place for him.
Don't talk about my Desi like that. Oh, you'll be sorry.
Weiß nicht, ob du dir jetzt damit hilfst, hier noch Drohungen auszusprechen.
well, it seems that we've learned a great deal of things here so far.
What do you think, Nick?
I didn't think it was possible to get so thoroughly whipped in just 20 minutes.
Clearly there was sufficient motive for murder. He stole data for his wife, and he killed to protect his secret. A family man who cared just a little too much.
The motive is clear. Let's move on. What happened at the crime scene at 1 in the morning, Mr. Delight? Come now, tell us. We're all ears.
When I entered the office, there was a suspicious shadow there. Suddenly, I was hit on the forehead. After that, I remember being a bit dazed. If I hadn't been wearing that, I would have been killed. When I came to, Mr. Bullet was lying there dead.
I see. Suddenly hit on the forehead, huh? I believe the detective from yesterday provided similar testimony. He said that Master Moskwa struck him on the head from behind.
Of course, since aRdW turned out to be the culprit himself, that was all a lie.
Huh.
No one's going to believe a pathetic lie like that.
What are you saying? I really was attacked.
We'll find out if what you say is true or not during the cross-examination.
Got that, Mr. Troy? Don't go easy just because he's your client. If I see any sign that you are, I'll treat you to another cup of my special blend. You don't need to worry about that, Mr. Godot. I have faith in Ron. I know he didn't do it. Aber ist schon lustig, ich meine, Ron hat ja beim ersten Trial die ganze Zeit so darauf bestanden, dass er der Dieb der Urne war. Und ich habe noch gedacht, warum, er ist jetzt schon dabei, not guilty gesprochen zu werden und dann ist er ja trotzdem nochmal reingeplatzt und meinte, nein, ich hab's getan, ich bin schuldig, ich habe die Urne gestohlen. Ich habe mir noch gedacht, was für ein Idiot. Wie delusional kann man sein? Aber dann hat er das ja tatsächlich nur versucht zu machen, damit er wegen dem Mord nicht angeklagt wird. Um die Anklage als Dieb als Alibi zu haben. Und wir sind diejenigen, die ihm das zunichte gemacht haben. Aber, naja, wir wollen auch wissen, was wirklich passiert ist. When I entered the office, there was a suspicious shadow there. Who was this suspicious shadow? If there were 1,000 of me, and even... Was? If there were 1,000 of me, and if even one knew, I'd tell you, trust me. Was komische Art und Weise, das zu sagen. His dodging all of our questions is not helping us win this case. Okay, then how was the victim, Mr. Bullard, at that time? What do you mean by how was he? Was he already dead? Was he still alive? Maybe he was the one who hit you in the first place. That's a good question. What do you think, Mr. Wright? Forget it. Suddenly I was hit on the forehead. After that I remember being a bit dazed. Your forehead? Yes, I was hit on the forehead as soon as I entered the room. It was an amazingly fast and powerful attack. Do you remember anything about who hit you? Well, like I said, it was a fast and powerful hit. So I think I was a little dazed for a while. I don't think Mr. Delight even grasped what you were asking. Yeah, I'd like to show him a fast and powerful attack myself. Maybe that would knock some sense back into him. If I hadn't been wearing that, I would have been killed. That? Could you please clarify what you're referring to? Why, my Master Musque costume, of course.
Wait just a moment. Master Musque?
Huh? Oh, did I forget to mention it before? Just to be on the safe side, I dressed as Mask de Musque. And then I descended upon the office of the CEO of KB Security.
What?
Nick, did you know about this? He never told me this. I don't recall him ever mentioning that to me either.
Even I didn't know that. It seems our little friend really loves to keep secrets.
I'm sorry, I just never had a chance to mention it up until now. Wait, that's not right. You know how sometimes things just slip your mind?
Ah, my 6th cup of coffee is stirring up at me coldly. Is it? Well, at any rate, we can't ignore this new piece of information. Witness, please correct your testimony.
I have been killed if I hadn't been wearing my Master Musque costume. Also das Erste, was mir dazu einfällt, ist... wenn man irgendwas mit dem Foto hier machen kann. Andererseits ist das ja jetzt kein Widerspruch an und für sich. Wir zumindest wissen ja schon, dass angeblich aRdW das Kostüm hier gefunden hat. Und Ron wird sich ja ganz leicht Neues haben machen können. Deswegen ist es jetzt nicht so der Widerspruch, dass 2 Kostüme gleichzeitig existierten, oder? Why were you dressed up as Master Musque? Why? Because I'm Master Musque, of course.
What are you talking about? Master Musque's trial is being held next door.
Yes, I guess so. Anyway, at that time, I thought I was being blackmailed over the Master Musque issue. So I thought I should go as him, just to be safe. Oh boy. Let me tell you, it's a real pain to move around with that cape. That's why it took a lot longer than I'd expected.
Took a lot longer? What is he talking about? Press harder? What do you mean by took a lot longer?
Oh, opening the safe, of course. My cape got caught on the safe door, you see. This all happened when I was hiding Mr. Bullard's body.
What was that?
Das weiß er ja noch gar nicht.
Back up a second.
Das klang ja jetzt total, als hätte er ihn umgebracht.
Yes?
You were the one that hit the body in the safe.
Well, yeah.
Inconceivable.
Wow, ich glaube, das ist das erste Mal, dass der Richter so viele Gefühle zeigt.
Why? Just why? What reason could you have? What were you thinking?
Question: when does someone toss their dirty shorts in the washing machine?
What?
The answer is simple. When they take them off. Wir haben sein Lied, glaube ich, noch gar nicht so richtig lange gehört.
As usual, I have no idea what you're saying.
Do you mean that Mr. Delight hid the body because he's the murderer? Ha, so you're not as stupid as you look. His metaphor this time was really obscure.
Mr. Wright, you don't mean that you knew about this whole safe business, do you?
Well, yes.
Why am I the only one not in the loop here? Witness, make sure you add this to the testimony.
Yes, sir. Uh-oh, looks like a storm front is moving in over the fair weather judge. I panicked and hid the body in the safe. It took about 10 minutes. Dann wundert mich jetzt aber das hier. Ist der dagegen gekommen? Ich press erst nochmal. Aber es wäre irgendwie... Ich weiß nicht, ob es irgendwie was bringt, diese Aussage dazu zu präsentieren. Mit dem Buzzer. Ja, es ist jetzt kein Widerspruch an und für sich, aber fällt mir zumindest gerade mal auf, wenn die Leiche gegen 1 Uhr gefunden wurde und um 1:02 Uhr dieser Knopf gedrückt wurde, ist ja die Frage, wer den gedrückt hat. Ob das irgendwie, ob er dagegen gekommen ist. Why did you hide the body in the safe anyway? Well, because it wouldn't fit in the drop. That's not exactly what I meant. When I saw that corpse, I kind of lost it. I thought, if they find his corpse, they'll think I did it. I think you had a simpler reason than that. It's because you killed him. That's why you spent 10 minutes hiding the body.
It certainly makes more sense.
Hold on. 10 minutes? What is it, Nick? I just had a thought. Under those circumstances, would you normally try to hide the body? And spend 10 whole minutes to do it? Jetzt, ich glaube, der Knopf ist doch sehr wichtig. Denn es ist egal, wer den gedrückt hat. Die Sache ist ja erstmal, wenn der 2 Minuten nach 1 Uhr losging, heißt das, dass da voll der Alarm am Abgehen war, während er irgendwie mit seinem Cape festhing. Und würdest du, wenn du Angst hast, dass du jetzt gleich entdeckt wirst und alle denken, du hättest den Mord begangen, würdest du doch nicht trotzdem noch 10 Minuten damit verbringen, eine Leiche irgendwie zu verstecken, während der Alarm losgeht und du davon ausgehst, dass jeden Moment jemand da reinstürmt. Da würdest du wahrscheinlich einfach ganz schnell weglaufen. Hey Nick, if you think his behavior was so strange, why didn't you present some evidence that would show just what those circumstances were? That's it. I'll take a look at the... Yeah, okay, then... We heard this from Mr. Delight yesterday, didn't we? There's not much in this testimony. Okay. I just hope he doesn't make things any more complicated. Nee, dann war ich ja vorhin sogar schon richtig mit meinem Gedanken, denke ich mal. Ups. So schnell. Wo ist es denn? Da. Bam. Puh, okay. Your Honor, could you please take a look at this record?
And what might this be?
The record for the emergency buzzer that connects the CEO's office to security. If the button in the office is pressed, a security team is supposed to come running. And according to this record, the buzzer was pushed once at 1:02 a.m.
What?
If Mr. Ron Delight truly was the murderer, he would have ran as soon as that buzzer sounded. After all, a security guard would have been heading his way.
Let's remember who we're dealing with here. He probably had no idea there were security personnel in the building.
Had er da mal gearbeitet? Up until 1 year ago, my client was working as a chief of security. There's no way he wouldn't have known about them.
But, as it turns out, the guard never came.
That was nothing more than a coincidence. The fact that the guard was a pathetic loser, who had just gotten punched in the face by his ex's new boyfriend, and wasn't anywhere in the vicinity, was not something Mr. Delight could have known. Das wäre jetzt so der Moment für den Richter zu sagen, that was awfully specific.
Again, remember who we're dealing with here. It's a sure bet that Mr. Delight didn't even notice the buzzer going off.
This buzzer is extremely loud. There's no way he could have ignored something like that. If he had been conscious, that is.
Conscious? What do you mean by that?
Fine, let's hear your theory. Recall the defendant's testimony. The moment he entered the victim's office, someone attacked him. Mr. Delight said he felt dazed. I'm willing to wager that he was knocked unconscious for at least a few minutes.
Unconscious? So he fainted?
That's why Mr. Delight didn't know that the buzzer had sounded. And that's why he thought he had time to hide the body.
So what are you trying to say?
Mr. Delight was knocked out, and the buzzer went off soon afterwards. Now, unless my client was able to hit the buzzer while he was unconscious, it can only mean that there was another person in that room. That's right, whoever it was, they knocked out Ron Delight and then pressed the buzzer. Ah, klar. Damit dann die Security-Leute kommen und denken, Ron Delight ist der Mörder. Da haben wir also in dem Sinne war es also sogar gut, dass Larry nicht an seinem Platz war.
Order in the court, Mr. Wright. This is preposterous. It was this kid. Ron Delight is the one who killed Kate Bullard.
Then who pressed the buzzer?
It was the victim, of course. He pressed the buzzer when the defendant attacked him. He didn't die right away. He must have held on long enough to push that button. So Kate Bullard sounded the buzzer himself. What is your opinion on this, Mr. Wright?
I need to prove that the real criminal was there at the scene, but how? Can I prove that it wasn't Kate Bullard who sounded the buzzer? Ja, da waren nämlich keine Fingerabdrücke drauf. Haben wir ein Foto von seinem Tod? Haben wir nicht, oder? Haben wir irgendwas, das beweist, dass der CEO keine Handschuhe getragen hat? Haben wir nicht, oder? Ich würde es trotzdem mal versuchen. Okay, I can prove it alright. The defense's opinion is this, Your Honor. Vielleicht sollte ich auch mal wieder speichern. This piece of evidence proves that it wasn't the victim who sounded the buzzer.
Here goes nothing.
I believe this is the piece of incontrovertible evidence you were looking for.
The emergency buzzer? Is there some kind of clue on it?
Absolutely not. Which is the clue in itself.
Hey, come on now. At least give some thought to what you say before opening your mouth.
The fact that there are absolutely no clues is itself the clue.
No, I'm the one who's clueless.
This button has no fingerprints on it. If Mr. Bullard had really pressed it himself, naturally he would have left his fingerprints behind.
Ron Delight obviously wiped them off.
Jetzt geht's aber hin und her hier.
Why would he? A guard could have come in at any moment. He touched that button. I know he did.
The defendant, Mr. Delight, was dressed as Master Moskwa. And Master Moskwa always wears gloves. What reason could he possibly have had to wipe the button free of fingerprints?
Order, order, order. Ha, it would seem. I've been forced to eat crow.
I wonder what blend number crow-flavored coffee is.
However, if the real killer was there at the scene, why would that person press the emergency buzzer? Shouldn't they have run away without putting themselves in extra danger? What's with this awkward silence all of a sudden? Well, it looks like you're fresh out of parlor tricks.
They're onto you, Nick. Just give me a minute to collect my thoughts. Na, ich hab's schon. Das ist so, was ich vorhin sagte. Damit Leute... Das ist jetzt nicht so schwer. Du haust den Typen K.O., von dem du willst, dass... von dem du willst, dass alle denken, er wäre der Mörder, und drückst dann den Alarmknopf, damit alle angerannt kommen. The real culprit killed Mr. Bullard at around 1 a.m. And Mr. Delight just happened to waltz in when the murder was taking place, right? Oh, das war Maya. The killer clobbered Mr. Delight and then sounded the buzzer. Oh my god. Even though security was supposed to respond right away if the buzzer was pressed. Security was supposed to respond.
Time's up, Mr. Wright. Let's hear what you have to say.
Very well then. Oh, you've got some guts. I like that in an opponent.
Why did the real killer sound the emergency buzzer?
To call the security guard ist immer noch meine Vermutung. The killer knew that if they pressed that button, the guard would come running. And that was exactly what they wanted.
Do you mean to say the killer the guard on purpose?
Yes, although as it turned out, he never showed up. Because he was getting his cock cleaned at the time. Ich hätte beinahe gelesen, he was getting his cock cleaned, aber das ist ja nicht passiert.
What a touching story. You're saying the killer had a change of heart and called the guard to turn himself in?
No, I'm not. When that buzzer sounded, there were 3 people in that office. The victim, Kane Bullard, who was already dead. The defendant, Ron Delight, who was out cold. And the third person, the real killer.
Hypothetically, yes.
Now then, in this situation, if the real killer made an escape, what would happen? The only ones left in the room would be the victim and Ron Delight. And if any security guards came running in at that time, they would think that I was the murderer. Yes, that was precisely the real killer's objective. To frame Ron Delight for the murder. Schmeckt wohl nicht mehr so gut, was?
Order, order, order!
It would seem. I've been made to eat my words once again.
Actually, you've been made to do a spit take with a cup of coffee. Mr. Wright, who was it? Who was it that tried to frame me? Oh, wait a second. I'm the one and only Master Musqueson. Nick, you mean the real killer is...
I'm going to drag that person in here right now.
Oh, yeah. But who is it? I don't have any solid proof yet, but think about it. The killer knew Mr. Delight's identity, and they also knew that he had been called to KB security that night. So the killer used him to execute a well-crafted plan to murder Kane Bullard.
Now then, let's hear your accusation, Mr. Wright. Who was it that framed Mr. Ron Delight for the murder of Kane Bullard?
It was fucking Larry Boots. It has to be Luke Atme.
Motherfucking Luke Atme.
Detective Luke Atme. He's the only one who could have done it.
Ace Detective.
Luke Atme?
You mean Master Musque did it?
Your Honor, the person being tried in the court next to us is not Master Musque at all. He is, in actuality, the true murderer of Kane Bullard.
Order, order, Mr. Wright, explain yourself.
Theft and murder. Which is the more serious crime?
They're not even close. Murder's the more serious crime, of course. It's a capital crime subject to a capital punishment.
Please remember the trial from yesterday, if you would. When Luke Atme confessed, there was a huge commotion in the courtroom.
Of course, a famous detective was unmasked as well as Master Musque.
Instead of being convicted of murder, he was found guilty of grand larceny. That was his true objective all along.
To be found guilty?
Master Musque had the perfect alibi for when the murder took place. He was stealing the urn at Lordly Taylor. In other words, being found guilty as Master Musque was Luke Atme's airtight, watertight, and unassailable alibi.
A guilty verdict as an alibi?
Well, that is pretty insane.